Take you now to a press conference that's been going on the last few minutes in central London, fronted by Tommy Robinson, former leader of the Mr. Nawaz of the Quilliam Foundation as well, both giving their comments in central London. A warning there will be some flash photography because it is a press conference.
So first of all, I'd like to say that we've been working with Quilliam for 5 years. Those of us who are Quilliam have been working for 5 years to challenge Islamist extremism, but also we've been concerned with what we've called far-right extremism. My own entry into Hizb ut-Tahrir, the Islamist organisation I left, happened at 16 years old because of my own experience in Essex being attacked by neo-Nazi paramilitaries and a group known as Combat 18. We've always been interested in this, and therefore my own departure from Hizb ut-Tahrir happened when Amnesty International adopted me as a prisoner of conscience and reached out to me, which healed my heart. And what I've said often is that where the heart leads, the mind can follow. When Tommy here came to me and said that he wants to reach out in a similar way, he wants a chance to move forward in a positive direction, he wants a chance to prove to the world that he isn't happy with the association that the EDL has come to be known to have with neo-Nazis. He isn't happy with that association, nor is Kevin here to my left, and that they want a chance to demonstrate they're not happy and move forward positively. I would be a very bad human being if I didn't extend to them both that chance that Amnesty extended to me, which has brought me here today as the man that I am. I believe everyone deserves a chance to demonstrate that they want to move forward in a positive way. The last thing I'll say before handing over to Tommy is, of course, going forward, there may be things that all four of us on this table agree with and disagree with. But I'll ask all of you here to consider one thing. If Tommy Robinson and Kev Carroll came to you and said, help us leave the English Defence League, you can either say to them, stay as leaders of the English Defence League, and we want that group to continue existing, to continue its street protests in a provocative manner, and thereby you would be supporting the very thing that you would be claiming to be against. Or you could say, this is a wonderfully courageous and brave thing to do. Yes, I will help you leave the English Defence League, and the rest we can work out going forward, because the future needs to be better. It needs to be positive. It needs to be inclusive. It needs to be British for all of us together. We need to challenge those who undermine that vision of a togetherness and of a Britishness. I chose the latter option, and I chose to invest my trust in these two men, and they chose in turn to invest their trust in me. And as I said, we may not agree on everything going forward, but the fact that they've made this gesture, it must be accepted, it must be welcomed, because the alternative was to have the EDL still out there on our streets. And that's not an alternative that I'm sure many of us would want, and I know certainly Muslims wouldn't want. We have to my right there a very religious Muslim and a senior theologian in this country. This is not about hating Muslims. Tommy Robinson and Kev Carroll have made it very clear to me, they do not hate Muslims. And that's the trust that I'm going to vest in them and hope that we go forward to demonstrate a more democratic way of doing things. Tommy.
Basically, first of all, I believe what's happened with the English Defence League has had to happen. I believe the debate has had to be had, and I believe that for the last 4 years, I've seen it as part of the solution. I believe the underswell and the feeling has had to get out there. I've then become of the belief that progressing, instead of being part of the solution, it may become part of the problem, which is not what I've wanted. First of all, I'll apologise for the fact that what I've represented and said has not resonated individually with Muslims. I don't hate Muslims. I've said the whole way through this, I don't hate Muslims. And ourselves, we're both singing off the same hymn sheet. We're from Luton Town, it's a completely multicultural town, and from the day one in the English Defence League, we've wanted to embrace everyone, all colours and all creeds. I have a passion to combat Islamist ideology, and I said it earlier, I want to lead a revolution against that Islamist ideology, but I don't want to lead a revolution against Muslims. I don't hate Muslims. And I went away for 18 weeks in October, and during that time, it was the first time I'd had out in the English Defence League in 3 years. And it's quite a chaotic life, to say the least. It has been chaotic with death threats or violent assaults or arrests. It's been chaotic. And then when I was away for that 18 weeks, I was on solitary confinement. It gave me time to evaluate everything think about everything, think about where I was going. I thought about how I neglected my wife, my children, my family. And I also thought about, what do we want? What is it we want? People keep saying, well, you're doing this, which we are doing. And I still maintain, each time we were doing demonstrations, it's a cry for help from Middle England. It's like, there are problems. We're not going to solve these problems by pretending they're not there. And quite frankly, that's what I've seen, everyone burying their head in the sand. So I asked myself a lot of questions when I was away. And what we want, and to achieve what we want, is I've got 3 young children. I want what's best for them. And what's best for them is to confront the problem. But I then realised that marching through the street saying, Allah, Allah, who is Allah, what we were actually doing is giving any moderates, any people who are willing to speak up against extremist voices, we're actually giving them something something to align themselves with extremists on the same issue, because we're offending all of them. So to solve the problem, we need the support, and we need to work with Muslims in this country to defeat Islamist ideology. And similar, Muslims need to work with non-Muslims to defeat the neo-Nazi ideology. Now, when I come out of custody, I've been gone 18 weeks. We had fought for 3.5 years to keep fascists, to keep racists out of the English Defence League. When I was away, there was an attempt at a coup which involved people turning on Kev Carroll, because he is of the same ethos and belief of what I want, and an attempted takeover. Now, I was released on tag. When I was released on tag, it was the first demonstration in 3 years I hadn't been to. And when I looked at that Manchester demonstration, and I saw flags and signs, white pride flags, I saw things that did not represent me. Yeah? And I'd managed to steer this very difficultly, but when I was looking at it, I thought, that does not represent me, and am I willing to be the public face for them? No, I'm not. And that's the big issue for me. That's when it started. This started in February. And I come out and looked, I will not be the public face for them. And then I've said, when someone turns up at a demonstration and they lift up their top and they've got a picture of a mosque and it says boom, yeah, Muslims think they're offended and they're upset. We're offended by that. It's my face that everyone here reports is a racist. It's me that takes the flak from it. And I have not once
let's leave that press conference there in central London. Tommy Robinson, formerly of the EDL, explaining there to the public through that press conference his reasons for leaving the EDL, the English Defence League, saying that after some period of incarceration he realised that not only had been neglecting his family, but also that the EDL had strayed into a direction that he was not prepared to follow. He also talked about an attempted coup for the leadership while he was away, and also spoke about the betrayal to his friend Kev Carroll, who was also there at the press conference. From the Quilliam Foundation, an Islamic organisation dedicating itself to fight Islamic ideology on the extreme end. Mr. Majid Nawaz also opening there, saying that Tommy Robinson and Kev Carroll came to him, and he said he would have been a bad human being if he'd not accepted their approach to him and investigated further this partnership that seems to be being announced here at a press conference. No doubt there'll be more details of that as it evolves. Young adults in England have amongst the lowest levels of literacy and numeracy in the developed world, according to a major new study. The findings from the Organisation for Economic Cooperation and Development